decided to look into the processes that make the displays in iPhone. So it turns out that that the screens in iPhone are made by Samsung. Now, Samsung has been known to use some very bad practices when it comes to how they get their materials. So the materials in a Samsung LCD display in iPhone has chemicals like biphenyls, terphenyls, and so even processes like carbon monoxide are used to form some of these elements. Now, they get these elements from all over the place, including so the so we start off here in Baltimore, and then one of the places that they get them is, I don't know how to pronounce this, but Cerro Rico, and this is where they get tin, which is used. Well, it's actually used in many places in the iPhone, but one of the places is used for the display to help hold it in place. And the social conditions here are really, really bad. So the average lifespan of a miner in this area is 40 years, and they found children as young as 6 years old working in these tunnels. Another place where they get their materials is Bangka Island in Indonesia. And, you know, in a lot of ways, this place is even worse because miners have been swallowed by landslides and collapsing pits. In 1 week, 6 people died from a landslide in 2012. And the Dodd-Frank Act of 2010 requires companies to identify, where they get these materials from. And at first, before this came out, Samsung didn't want to disclose where they got a lot of these elements for their displays, but after this they had to, and they get a lot of other elements a lot of the other chemicals that go into the displays they get from here. Now, once they get these materials, they collect them together. Samsung gets them over here, and now this is just the initial sort of gathering things together at this Samsung plant. And after this, they go to so after this, it moves over here to, again, another place that another province that I can't pronounce. But here's where the display is initially assembled. Oh, that didn't go quite right. So it's assembled over here. And then the final assembly, actually, for some of the displays, it was actually kind of tricky to find this out because they have multiple plants, and but for some places, the final display actually happens in Texas, which I found pretty interesting. I think this was a PR move that they made to help, have more American business. And then after this is done, the display is connected to the iPhone at Foxconn all the way back in China. So that's a lot of going back and forth, which I think is very interesting during this process. And then a difficulty in this project is that even though Apple lists all of their manufacturers as part of their supply chain reports, they don't say who makes what. So while going through it was difficult to figure out exactly what's going on there. And then once people get their iPhones and are done with it, they can recycle them. And all of the recycled iPhones up until, I think, 2017 went to this plant over here in Texas. And now Apple has made some more recycling plants. And here they have really advanced stuff. So, for example, Apple can extract the cobalt for batteries, and they can send them up the supply chain to help make new batteries. Also, they can use 100% recycled materials for certain parts of the display assembly in the iPhone. If the screens are broken, though, a lot of the times, a lot of components aren't recoverable, and also the glass itself, they can easily melt that down and put it back together. And then, so as you can see from this, the social conditions and the labor conditions for a lot of these are really bad. The elements that they get them from, these social conditions, where they got them are bad. These places aren't great. The labor conditions are really awful. And then, it's interesting, all this transportation, how it gets, how they get the materials from a bunch of different places. They'll manufacture it in Korea and China, but then they send it to the US for part of it, and then they'd send it back to Asia. I thought was very cool. And then finally get sent back to America or all over the world to get sold. And then for the American recycling program, it will get sent to this plant over here in Austin, Texas.